Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Mastering the Riviera Customer Journey session, which is dedicated to enhancing your success throughout the customer journey. For attracting touring clients, closing the sale to pre-departure communications, and of course, post-travel follow-ups. So, introducing to you my two speakers today, we have Libby Cohen, Creative Travel Director at Once in a Lifetime Holidays, and we also have Lisa here, Travel Professional at Travel Counsellors. So, welcome to you both. Welcome to the screen.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So, in terms of what's coming up, and we are going to, our two speakers are going to share their tips for curating the perfect client experience with Riviera, from the moment you pique their interest in a tour to the moment they return home from their holiday. As with the previous session, if you have any questions throughout this session, please type them in the chat box and we will try and pick them up as we go. So, to set the scene a little bit, Libby, shall I come to you first? What makes you an expert on selling Riviera tours? Have you been selling the brand for a long time? Have you taken extensive training? Have you been on a Riviera tour yourself? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I wouldn't say I was an expert, but I think I'm quite knowledgeable.
Great.
Actually, I've only really known of them since I came back into travel about 3.5 years ago. And it was only that I'd done all the training because you've got an extensive training session. But yes, I have been on a tour. I went to Sri Lanka recently.
Oh, amazing. Fantastic. Well, that's incredible.
It's handy.
Yeah, cool. And Lisa, what about you? What makes you an expert?
Well, I've just supported Riviera for many, many years. I've known about the brand. Actually, before they started selling to the trade, I was aware of the brand. But they're just such an easy company to do business with. So for me, all supported them, liked the way they work. And no, haven't yet had the opportunity to travel with them.
Okay, there's still time.
Hopefully.
But, yeah. So, Libby, using your experience, what would you say is Riviera's core demographic when it comes to customer type, specifically for touring, that is?
Well, I would probably say maybe from my age upwards, which I'm 49 on Thursday. So if you want to send me a birthday card, but yeah, so I'd probably say my age upwards, and anyone that's got the disposable income. But I hate to stereotype people and say people younger weren't welcome because obviously it's down to what they want to do and what the tour's going to suit them as such. But I'd probably say my age and older.
Okay,
My opinion.
great. Thank you. And Libby, not Libby, Lisa, double L's. What kind of budgets do customers tend to have for Riviera tours? How much do they typically spend?
Do you know, it can really depend, and I've got such a huge demographic of Riviera clients and clients who are new to sort of touring, be it solos, couples. But I'm just about to make a laugh now because Libby's obviously a fine Gemini like me. I can trump, and my birthday is Wednesday. What are the chances?
Happy birthday to you both.
Two Geminis on the sofa, shall we say, today. So and I would say from sort of typically age 50 upwards. However, what I'm finding is there are people who are a bit younger but perhaps aspire to be more with an older sort of clientele just because of their communication skills or just because of how they feel more comfortable. So from that point of view, I find Riviera really easy, as I say. And sorry, I've gone off on a tangent now and I missed what you had to say, Maddie. So tell me again what the question was, if you will.
No, it's fine. It was budget. What kind of budget do these customers have, do you think?
Do you know, all sorts of budgets, and as Libby rightly says, it's all to do with what their disposable income is, certainly. But I'm finding people are going on Riviera trips for shorter durations, so they're perhaps doing 2 trips a year, and they're doing one long haul maybe and one shorter duration trip. So we don't necessarily have to be looking at the big bucks all the time. I would say, when trying to convert people to Riviera, it's just sowing the seed, and it could just be opportunities to do shorter trips, maybe Christmas market, river cruises and things like that. So just getting them into the zone of thinking about Riviera and the whole abundance of what it has to offer.
Okay, cool. I've actually got a question in the chat here from Gail, asking about if the demographics change depending on whether it's a touring holiday or a river cruise holiday. Libby, what do you think about that?
You know what? I'm sort of sitting on the fence a little bit because having done a river cruise, and I still class myself as being fairly young, but there were some older clientele on there. But again, it refers back to what Lisa's just said about depending on what that client is wanting out of the trip, I suppose, and who they're wishing to mix with. And so I don't think there really is a difference. But again, it can be also down to where the river cruise is going versus, again, where the tours are going. I think that's what it comes down to.
Destination rather than type of trip. Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good. Suzanne said in the chat here there were older teenagers on the Christmas market cruise on the Danube. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So coming into the first part of the customer journey, attracting the client, Libby, I'm going to stick with you for this one. Say a client comes into a once in a lifetime holiday, is looking for a holiday. What are the things that this client would be looking for in order for you to match them to a Riviera tour?
I think, and I'm sure I probably speak for all of us creative travel directors, is that when we're speaking to a client, whether they're someone you know or whether they're a new client, it's obviously key to find out what makes them tick, what they've done before, what they've enjoyed, what they've not liked, where they've been, what they like doing during the day, the evening, what they envisage this trip to be about, before you then start sowing the seed and introducing them to key aspects of a touring holiday. But I think it's key to actually delve deeper into finding out what they like. And it might be that they might not even know about going on a tour or even think about going on a touring holiday, but we can read the signs about what they like doing or what they've not liked doing, to be able to start painting that picture for them. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the key skill of being a travel agent, that is, isn't it?
One size doesn't fit all.
Exactly. Great. So moving on to kind of the marketing side of things, Libby, I'm going to stick with you. Lisa, I'll come back to you in a second. But Libby, if there's a particular Riviera tour that you're promoting, like an offer, for example, and what marketing channels have you found have been the most fruitful? So I'm talking like email, social media, advertising, client events. Like which ones do you really find works for Riviera?
Being a home worker, I used to work in a store for 20 years, so I've seen sort of both sides as such. But being a home worker this time, a little bit more restricted on our advertising way, shall we say. However, obviously I use social media, Facebook, Instagram. I've now started using LinkedIn a lot more, not so much about offers, but more about educating my contacts about the different types of holidays that are available out there, and almost proving my knowledge based on what I'm telling them. But with social media, I've also liked to do a lot of videos for people. So if I'm, say, for example, when I was in Sri Lanka with you guys last month, I was doing a lot of my videos, and the interaction I was getting on those was far higher than if I was to put an offer with just imagery. So I think, also when I come back for many of my trips, whether it be a fam trip or whether it be a personal holiday, quite often enough, I'll already be thinking about certain clients that I know of that would suit this type of holiday, and it wouldn't be unheard of me to reach out to them privately and say this one has got your name all over it, and start promoting directly via email.
Yeah, it's a great time to approach that. What about you, Lisa? Kind of, how do you manage marketing Riviera specifically? Which channels have been the most successful for you?
Well, in much the same way as Libby's just said, I mean, I tend to do a lot of word of mouth recommendations and communications, of the phone to people. I do use social media because absolutely it is the shop window of today's society for sure. So I do use that, but again, I would say that Libby has just said is absolutely perfect. The content is greater outweighs the interaction than the offers do, believe it or not. I mean, years ago we used to put offers in the
Window, didn't we, as the norm within a travel agency? But actually now within social media, it certainly is the way to do it is to put the content out there. But we've got various avenues in through the way we work as travel counsellors, that we have the opportunity to send e-cards and things to people that have already signed into receiving certain things that have been sort of guided to be what they would be looking for, through their preferences and that sort of thing. So yeah, but I just find it the easiest word of mouth company to recommend to people, because you cover so many bases. And I'm sure Libby's the same. I sometimes get emails from people who just ask, like, a 2 sentence sort of, you know me, this is where I think I want to go, and you can take it to whichever level you want. And actually, funnily enough, where Riviera are concerned, a gentleman sent me an email only recently saying he wanted to go to the Camargue in Provence, and I thought, right, okay, so literally just picked up the telephone and said, right, let's have a conversation. How do we need to do it? Do we need to look at Provence river cruises, or do we need to do something more land-based? How do we need to work it? And obviously, in my mind at that point was very much Riviera to the fore.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, thank you. And Lisa, what kind of, speaking more broadly, and what are your tips for other home workers hoping to increase their Riviera sales through marketing?
It's just, as I say, they are such an easy company to do business with, and
You can get so much content from them if you need it.
in whichever sort of vein you wish to advertise. And if you're not home workers, absolutely, there's quite a lot that you can do with stores. And I know, things years ago that I used to do when I worked in a travel agency branch was have sort of in-store days or afternoons with tour operators that are like Riviera, because they're just superb at interacting. They have the customer at the heart of all of their transactions, and that is where very much I and they aspire to do exactly the same thing. And I think we're all singing from the same hymn book, really. So it's just an easy company all round to do business with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. That's good to hear. And Libby, coming back to you, what are the kind of challenges that you might have come up against when it comes to getting a client to commit to a Riviera tour? This comes at the point of closing the sale. What challenges have you had, and how did you overcome them?
That's actually quite a tough one because
Yeah.
I've not actually had an issue where I've not been able to overcome it. But I think it's reassurance at the end of the day, isn't it? And just making sure that you're asking if they've got any questions. And I think referring back to what they've actually asked for and have said they've liked, to then sort of refer that back to what you're actually quoting them. It's all to do with reassurance, really, isn't it? But I haven't actually had a situation recently where it's a booking or an inquiry hasn't come off, because I think actually the Riviera brand is so well described. It's a no-brainer.
Selling itself. Not quite, but
Most of that.
you know what I mean. Cool. So moving into pre-departure communications then. Lisa, can you talk us through the steps that you would take personally to prepare a customer for their Riviera tour?
Yeah, I mean, at the time of taking the inquiry, I take probably a little bit more information when I'm dealing with Riviera, because I know exactly what they're going to come back and ask me for. So obviously, with their consent, I take a lot more information that will need to be provided. Things like travel insurance and next of kin, and probably actually these are all the things we should now be taking more and more, particularly when we all fell foul of the COVID situation. In how we needed to contact clients, it's always a good move to have that sort of information. But I just find it so easy to email through to Riviera or to call through to them just to provide the information. You can do it on the portal as well, just providing all that information in advance of travel. And sometimes when they're dealing with the low cost airlines, you don't need to do online check-in because it's an agreement that they have with the airlines. And again, it's just reassuring the clients as to what we're taking from them, how we're going to deal and process their information, why it's needed. Because at the end of the day, we're just trying to alleviate any issues, God forbid, should anything arise whilst they're travelling.
Okay, great. And Libby, how does that compare to how you prepare a customer once a lifetime holidays? Are there any Riviera resources specifically that you'd make the most out of during this process? Getting customer ready for departure.
I think Lisa sort of covered it off quite well there.
Yeah.
Though obviously the website is really, really handy, and you've got your helpful trade team, and they answer the phone so quickly anyway. So even if you have got a small question that you're unsure of, because not everyone has done a touring holiday, not everyone's done a river cruise, let's face it. So there is always going to be questions that we don't know the answer to, but the trade team are so helpful. But the website's great, and you've got the new e-tickets now that's got so much information on them. It's a rarity, I think, that we'd probably have any questions.
Great. Okay. I see there's lots of great feedback in the chat. Marie's saying this is so useful. Thanks for sharing the insights. Michelle says next of kin is a great idea. So, in terms of when a client departs on their Riviera tour, how does this process look? I'm going to ask you both a question. But are you able to take a step back and let Riviera handle it from there? Are you still in touch with the customer while they're away? What does that look like when you're selling Riviera holidays to your customers? Lisa, shall I come to you first?
Yeah, depending on the customer.
We have customers that have had with me for 40 years. So for me, it's a case of I gauge how they like to do it. Some people like to be in touch with them right away because
It's very lovely that you're making contact. Some people don't like it because it frightens them that you are making contact with them. So I just gauge it individually. But I say to all my clients, I am on hand if you need me, and it's absolutely fine. We can talk to Riviera if needs must. And if I could just jump back to that previous question when you said to Libby about tours and selling tours and clients sort of wondering about whether they should commit. I think one of the biggest things with touring is group numbers on tours, and that's why I think it's so beautifully laid out, as Libby said, and so easy to understand with Riviera, because they've got the signature tours and the classic tours. And if you sort of just have that discussion with the client again, just to work out what their real needs and thoughts are. Some people like a larger group number, some people think it's their worst nightmare. So as long as you can have that sort of open discussion with the client before they commit to the booking, it's not like they're going to get a document and then think, oh crikey, I've booked the wrong thing, or I've plumped for the wrong journey choice. But obviously with some of these tours, we're working so far ahead as well, sometimes 2 years hence, aren't we? So a lot can change in the world and life over such a period.
Yeah, of course. Okay, well, we've only got 3 minutes left. I don't know where the time is going. But Libby, did you have anything to add to that in terms of how you're in communication with the client while they're on their Riviera tour?
To be honest, again, like Lisa said, it is down to the individual client. However, having just returned back from the Sri Lanka trip with you guys, and obviously the tour manager was second to none. Like, there wasn't something, I thought I was pretty knowledgeable, but he was amazing. And even with the every day when you were every other hotel that you arrived at, he was so reassuring and organized that I knew that none of my guests would need to contact me, because I knew that they were in really good hands. I was quite wowed by it. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty epic. It was just so organized. I usually WhatsApp my clients to see if I can get some sneaky photos so I can share them. But I think they wouldn't need me though.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's really great to hear. Okay, so 2 minutes to cover off post-travel. Lisa, coming back to you. What are your recommendations for welcoming a Riviera customer home? Do you do an email? Do you do a call? Do you ask them for a review? What does that step?
I've got people flying back this afternoon. Actually, they've been on a Provence cruise, so it'll be a telephone call. It'll probably be an email this evening, a telephone call tomorrow or Wednesday, and then I do ask for reviews thereafter. Because I think again, that's kind of a sort of shop window of operation, isn't it? That's the best sales are the ones that come through word of mouth for sure. So. Yeah, but again, just reiterating what I've said previously, just the easiest company to do business with and to feel comfortable in recommending the Riviera product to clients.
Okay, great. And Libby, when would you say is the right time to follow up to see if they'd like to book another Riviera tour after they've returned? How long would you wait?
Well, to be honest, I generally like to touch base with them within a few days at least of them being back, whilst they're still in that holiday bubble, shall we say, and they're feeling all like, oh, I want to share everything. So I like to have a good old chit chat so they can tell me everything about it. And then that's when we start saying, well, then you need to plan something because you've got to get out of the holiday blues. So at least within a few days, at least, no more than that.
Okay, great. So we are out of time, but any final gold nuggets of information or tips from you, Lisa?
Do the Explorer training. Your Explorer training on board is epic online. It's amazing, absolutely epic. So easy to do, and you learn so much.
Amazing. There was a question from Gail in the chat box there. So Lisa and Libby, if you wouldn't mind just replying by typing, that would be great because we are out of time. We do now need to move on. But Libby and Lisa, thank you so much for your time. It's been great to hear from you. And everyone who's watching, remember this session will be available to watch on demand. But now it's time to move on to the next session, Top 10 Reasons to Choose Riviera Tours in 2025, which is going to do exactly what it says on the tin. We'll see you there. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.